Good day, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Access Granted, the official podcast of Zeker South Africa. Today, I've got the honor to have another exciting guest with me, Leon Put from SDM at a Click. He's the managing director there, which is also the SDM, a part of the SDM at the Click group. So yes, welcome to you.
Thank you very much, Hendrik.
Yeah. So me and Leon has had a interesting few years of that we know each other. I think we met in Harties when we were still in Harties, huh?
We did, yes, back in 2014.
I think you and Stefan came that one day and also visited us afterwards and stuff like that.
Yes.
But let's start with Leon. Where were you born? Where do you come from? School and that type of things?
Hendrik, that's many years ago. so I was born in Klerksdorp in the Northwest Province, and I grew up and did my primary and high school in Orkney, which is about 15 km south of Klerksdorp on the Vaal River.
Yes.
Which is an exciting place to grow up. You've got gold mines, no mountains, but mine heaps, and then access to the river, which was great.
Fishing was good.
We never caught anything, but
really?
we were out fishing every weekend. So that was where we passed our time.
But with the bikes and stuff? Or?
We could cycle there, or you could even walk to the river. It's not too far, but usually we take a lot of camping stuff, etc. So take a vehicle.
Yes.
But that's the memories of childhood, is enjoying the Vaal River. Orkney has 2 or 3 claims to fame. The one is that the golf course was designed by Gary Player.
Oh, that's exciting.
And then the second thing is that the gold mines also produced uranium, which was used in the Apollo program to people the first man.
Oh, okay. And that was all sent all the way to US.
Yes, yeah. So quite a bit of history there, and a bit of for a quiet.
Obviously, yes.
Yeah, it's an interesting history. And then I grew up there. That's the story. I came to Johannesburg after matriculating.
Yes.
To do short courses in development and to start a career in
software. That is now computer development.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes. And then I came back to Orkney and worked on the mines there. I worked with African Rainbow Minerals.
Okay, but also in the IT side,
in systems,
not under the ground side.
No, fortunately not. I'm not built for that. I'm not that tough, but in software.
Okay. And what type of systems did you do, or what did you look after there?
So I worked for a number of companies that did contract work for various systems. So it's primarily production systems in terms of the production planning on the mines.
Yes.
There was a little bit of HR stuff at the time involved as well, but it was primarily budgets and costing. I remember many years ago in the early days there, I did a budgeting system for African Rainbow Minerals, and the finance team was using this to plan. It's actually a very sad story thinking about it. And halfway through their plan, I accidentally deleted the data.
Oh my
and
goodness.
They had to replan. And that was is one of the horror stories of my production.
How many months of planning was that you deleted?
Well, it was the entire year's financial plan budget. But they could catch it up quickly.
Yes,
but
because the questions was already asked, so the data must be on the top of your head, or that type of thing. Tell me then your transition then from that side into, is that your direct connection then going directly from there to SDM, or how did that come about?
No, so did the computer short courses and then transferred to Harmony Mine in Randfontein. And from there again, worked for a couple of small businesses, was involved with a couple of small software development businesses, spent some time in Rustenburg. On the platinum mines there. And then I joined a company called Computer Initiatives in Edenvale, who did finance systems at the time, and we did a bank planning system. From there, I moved on to Barloworld. Barloworld at the time had a company called Supply Chain Software, which did logistics software. And we had an international client base across 24 hours to support. That was
you were literally part of the whole Barloworld group, international.
Correct, yes. Barloworld Africa, but supplying to international to the Barloworld group and to external clients. And then at that point, I started moving parts of the business to the UK, and I thought this is a good opportunity for me to get into the market again.
Yes.
And that's when I came across the Ataclick Group.
Because they were also in Edenvale as well.
Correct. Also
around the
in
corner.
Edenvale, yes.
Okay.
And yeah, we just clicked.
Yes.
And
literally clicked.
literally clicked Ataclick, right?
Yes.
And yeah, I started there in 1st of August 2014.
Okay.
And yes, as you mentioned in the introduction, I think one of the very first people they took me to meet was ZK.
Yes.
And Henrik and the team. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me the STM side. Was that already operational, or is it something that you started in the Ataclick Group?
No, so it's got quite an interesting history. So the STM Staff Data Management product was...
Oh, is that what STM stands for?
That's what it stands for, Staff Data Management.
Yeah.
Was actually part or initiated in 2005 already as an internal application to the group to support its HR and time and attendance. And then they identified at the time that there's a market for this, they took it to market. And they needed they needed a software specialist skill at the time to run what is essentially a software business combined as an HR business. And like I said, we clicked. I enjoyed the role immediately, and we then took that product to try to improve it into the market.
So the initial part of getting that STM site was up and running was planning the software to be able to transfer from internal to external type of product that the end user at the end of the day can use.
Correct, yes.
Tell me the synergy. Obviously, there's a few other departments in Ataclick as well. You've got your STM. What is the others that actually forms part? Because you guys are actually forming quite a bit of synergy in the company.
Correct. So there's a couple of sister companies. One is Sizanani.com, also a web-based solution. They're a supply chain and logistics management system, and they initiated in the late 90s when the internet was not really a thing yet, but they made it work. They had a cloud-based system, the first of its kind in Africa, and from that start as a technology lead in the country, they've persisted with that. They've got big name clients, JSE listed clients. They're majority in the agri and retail space. And we share a building, so there's lots of synergies in terms of the technologies that we use, in terms of integrations, etc.
Of course.
The other company, Ataclick, they do functional HR outsourcing, payroll outsourcing, recruitment.
Yes.
So the scope of the human resources spectrum, they're an operational business in that. And they're also a client of my STM system.
Yes, of course.
Okay? So they're also staff at Ataclick, and the system gives them that advantage in the market.
Okay. Tell me we've spoken a lot, and obviously the site that I've seen the other day, we had a meeting, me and Leon has got a meeting every month, and I was mentioning, you mentioned to me that you got a project for one of the prominent universities, and I was sitting there and I thought, but that is not what I know you guys about. You're all about, like you said, prominent retailers and that type of thing that is using your guys' systems, that type of thing. But then you explained to me something different about what you guys are about, and I think you can elaborate on that.
So it's interesting. So if you look at the synergies we have between the businesses, we've got a logistics specialist company.
Yes.
We've got an HR specialist company, and we've got software specialists. So that's a strong combination, and it's very valid what you point out. Not many companies out there can do complex solutions, customized and heavily integrated. So in the scenario that you and I spoke about, and in the majority of my clients, we don't just put an off-the-shelf software set down. We customize it, and 95% of my software implementations are highly customized.
Okay.
It's usually complex, so it's large corporates. It's usually JSE-listed multinationals that operate in multiple spheres, how you pay people, multiple cultures, etc. And in some instances, multiple clients within the supply chain needing a software solution.
Exactly,
to integrate them all. And I'm going to elaborate on the two scenarios. The university scenario has multiple systems. Most companies and larger companies will want to integrate that, and that's our specialist area. We'll integrate that so that they've got one click of a button solution.
Okay.
You don't want to capture an employee
Yes.
3 times for access control, for time and attendance,
Exactly,
for
yeah.
payroll. And if a client, if an employee reports to a supervisor, he doesn't want to talk to the supervisor about when he's rostered.
Yes.
And to a payroll administrator about leave.
Because everybody will be kept busy with this one query.
It's a massive lot of administration, and we solve that. A good example also in our retail product, you will have a client, a retail warehouse.
Yes.
They've got a logistics provider who moves vehicles for them. They've got a warehouse logistics provider who supplies an outsourced function to them. And those service providers in turn will also have service providers that provide services to them.
Yes.
So you've got 4 or 5 levels deep of HR that utilizes the biometrics on the primary client's warehouse to punch. Now in this scenario, it's a full set of ZK biometrics. We've got 160 on one side. There's about 280 nationally. Okay, where all these different companies punch through ZK biometrics. To get that individual to punch on that biometric device across 5 different companies, you only load him once, and the system distributes, and the punches get distributed back. The same with timesheets for time and attendance. One team captures, and that becomes the invoice. It becomes the purchase order. It becomes the data feeding into payroll. That is an advanced, complex integration. The proud moment for us in that is that we've maintained that scenario for a decade.
Yes.
Without the client needing to change to a different service provider.
Okay, so you guys, that system was ahead of its time, actually, literally.
It's ahead of its time.
Yeah. Okay, and then tell me a bit about what you've seen since you started. I mean, you also would have probably run into access control systems stuff on the mine and whatever from your previous experience. But your perspective on how the technology grew from then up until what we have today, what would you say is the main milestones that technology has gone through?
So COVID had a massive impact. People did not trust face recognition for some reason. And if you look at my experience in the mines in the late 90s, early 2000s, they would invest in the most expensive product, not necessarily the best product. Believing that if you throw money at the problem, it solves the problem, which is not the case. So fingerprint technology has been coming for 20 years, and then COVID happened. So on the biometric side, that's changed the perspective. Now we can do face recognition easily, everybody understands it, and the fear that the market had for it no longer exists. It's now a practical solution, and all my new deployments are speed face range, ZK range face recognition. On the software side, there was also a change. So for the concept of human resources and time and attendance, it's driven usually by law and by what the unions want, as an example. So it'll differ from client to client. What we have seen is that there is a maturity in the ability of most clients to take the data that they get out of the system and take valuable decisions on it. So there's a move from I just want a biometric, I want to see punches, to I want a biometric system that's going to feed information that I can make management decisions on. And where that was previously something that only sat in the big corporates, it's now filtering down into the small to medium enterprises saying, I can make informed decisions with data.
Tell me, you were talking about the different levels that you can actually get in one relationship with one client, with the logistics and everything for it. Do you actually have different bargaining council rules and regulations that you have to throughout those levels as well?
Absolutely. If you take the functional outsourcing, such as the sister company Staffrecht, they would operate within multiple bargaining councils, multiple environments. So they needed a system that can solve and pay according to all those rules and do so easily. You could essentially generate one payslip from somebody that's worked across multiple bargaining councils.
Tell me, did you guys when you started, did you go directly to cloud system? Do you guys come from cloud systems, or was there any time that you had on-premises software or anything like that?
So we've got our primary product is cloud-based. And since the Sizanani.com launch in the late 90s as a cloud product, the STM product followed the same footsteps. Where we do have on-premises hosting is for where it's impractical to have because the brilliance of the ZK device is that they feed directly
Yes.
into the cloud. You don't need middleware to run that. But in some instances, we do put middleware to assist both with the biometric integration, but also with integration to other systems, depending on the security. A big thing in the time and attendance industry is protection of personal information.
Of course, yes.
So clients would want control, and then they need an advanced and complex security regiment in their infrastructure,
Yes.
which would mean that they can't. They while it's safe to do so in some instances, they don't necessarily want to feed data into the internet directly. Yes. They want some sort of control that they can switch off if they feel the need to do so.
Tell me, is there any milestones or anything on the software side when you started with STM? What would you say is the main milestones that you could see in the software evolution? I know we said just now about the 10, it's already running for a decade at one client or whatever, but I mean, there is probably that innovation that has to also happen on the software side.
So yes, I measure the milestones in the technology achievements and in a happy client.
Yes.
So we've discussed clients of 10 years. We've got 7 JSE listed companies that's been with us for 10 years or more. Okay, that's a milestone.
Of course.
That we're wearing the badge that says we can do this.
Yes.
Okay? The second aspect that was a big milestone for us is that we originated as a time and attendance company, and we had a biometric need, and we had time and attendance, and we feed directly into the payroll systems. But usually a time and attendance system only has a basic scheduling tool. So we had the opportunity within the retail space back in 2018 to write under very strenuous conditions. They had a union agreement. Union agreement said this must be active 14 days.
Yeah.
So they approached us, and within 14 days, we wrote an advanced scheduling tool for them that looks at their production plan, looks at their available employees, and says this is the legal and within the union rules and basic conditions of employment plan for these guys to work, so that they don't work overtime unnecessarily, they don't get short hours, and they get their necessary number of Sundays, etc., as per the union agreement. And that is also, like the rest of our products, still running there and in use. And that was a big achievement for us because we had to do it in a very short space of time, and it was extremely successful.
Okay. If you're looking at the solutions that you guys drive, what would you say is the main driver today, and what it was actually 10 years ago? Well, what would you say is there a change in drive, or because I was the other day in one of the other episodes we were talking about we see ourselves as data a data company. We produce data with the terminals and with whatever we have, and that can be then given over to you guys, and you can do something with it. But obviously, you guys also create data at the end of the day. So that movement from 10 years ago to now. Do you see any difference in the questions that you get from the clients?
Yes, I think people are getting more advanced in what they want to understand. I think 10 years ago, people were worried, am I paying by what the law says I should?
Yes.
Because that was where the focus was.
Of course.
Now people are saying, we've sorted this out. We know we're paying legally.
Yes.
But what can we now do with the information? And it coincides, interestingly, with the approach or arrival of artificial intelligence that seems to be something like the mobile phone, which was initially just something you read about. Now it's something everybody has, and AI is approaching that. So there's definitely a more detailed focus on what does the information give me, and how can I use that information to better run my business more affordably, more efficiently. And it talks to both productivity and cost.
Of course, yes.
And we're seeing that clearly in the market.
The other thing that we spoke about previously as well was the entrance of the new generation into the market, and I was talking about the one button generation.
Yeah.
Do you guys see that coming through in the market already, or is it still in your environment still straightforward? That is what the market is looking for. We're not looking at the individual needs of the users. What would you say?
So I think people are looking at the individual need of the user. So let's take an example. My development team is a team of young people.
Yes.
Everybody around 30 or younger.
Okay.
I don't want to call it the easy technology saturated.
That's correct. Yes.
Group of people. They're used to technology far more than our generation, as an example. And that's very individual focused. So you've got everything on your phone, etc., etc.
Yes.
Within the time and attendance environment, typically from a management point of view, you still look at the cost and the team in bulk, but the individual matters, and that comes back to is he legally paid, is he fairly remunerated, is he paid in time, etc.
So yeah, because that will obviously come through from the client side as well, where they are now employing younger people, and those younger people are now, I want to see everything on my phone. I've got the phone with me. I want to see my pay slip. I want to be able to do like leave management and all of that from one application. And I've seen that also coming from in other markets as well, like the straight on just access control. But like you say, the generations now is getting used to using technology to their advantage.
Correct.
We used it as a tool, but they use it as their everyday life.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's the difference between in the last 10 to 15 years. Is for us, it was something that we can choose to use or not.
Yes.
The new generation has no choice. You can't survive without it.
Exactly.
Life is built on it. I want to discuss a quick example, if I may, just on the technology side. When my very first job was to collect groceries based on order and deliver it. This was in 1998 while I'm in matric. Right?
Okay.
So an Uber driver.
Yes.
But without the app, without the real-time tracking, without knowing where the client's address is. So they would phone it in with not on a cell phone, on a telecom line those days. Place the order, we'd place it from the retail store in town. I'd go and collect it and deliver it. And that was 20 years, 15 years ahead of its time. Right? Technology now, it didn't last back then, because if somebody wanted bread or milk, they want it now.
Of course.
Okay? Yeah. So, and that's the reality, though, and that's the difference in the technology and what the technology allows us to do.
Yeah, I think the urgency has also made a very big difference in technology these days, because almost everything these days is urgent.
Correct.
You want it within 60 seconds, you want to have it within an hour, or my pizza may not be cold when it gets to me.
Absolutely.
But this time again, going back to the apps, the urgency is creating a whole new business model for everybody in the technology world.
Correct. And on the apps, it's about getting data in real time.
Yes.
People want to see what's happening now. If you've planned 100 people, and only 80 show up, it's got a productivity and cost implication. You want to know about it 5 minutes in.
Yeah, because urgency from your clients to know what is happening on site.
Correct.
We've seen it a lot with moving over from where people only want to see when the guy clocked in and when he clocked out, and then do the calculations in the time attendance industry, over to where they want to do productivity. And I think that is, I don't know if you have seen also movement from your guys' side, and if it's actually possible in your environment, whereby the client is also asking the productivity time instead of just the time on site.
Yes, yeah, definitely seeing it. So people want to know what is my labor actually costing me, what's the implication on the productivity, and what is that going to be in terms of revenue and profit. And the quicker you can get that information out to them, and it starts with the plan. If you plan properly and you can measure the plan to actual, then you've got a view of how a day's productivity, and specifically, I think in terms of job costing or multi-skilling of staff, which is also significant in the retail industry these days, what is the impact on my profitability? And people are looking for that information and ways to get that information out quickly.
Yes. Tell me, from the different clients that you guys service in the industry, your retail and all of those, is there differences in the different levels that you see that you guys have to give different data to different clients?
Not per industry, it's per client. So in every industry, you'll see a client that is at a different stage in their business and different needs. A small and growing business will want punches. I want to see punches. I want to know that my team's there, and I want to know that they're on time. Then that escalates to I want to pay them accurately. I want to make sure, looking at this data, that they're best paid, and now I want to start planning more accurately. And then the third stage, I would say, is then when people start growing their business significantly, and they say, now I need to make use of this data in an advanced way. And it's usually, we always say that with 25 people you can manage on a spreadsheet. When it grows more than that, it becomes difficult. When you get to 100 people, then you want to start looking at data coming out of systems. We've got clients in the retail industry that captures 2,800 people's timesheets per day.
Goodness.
And reports cost and plan versus actual on it by 12 o'clock.
Per
day. So that's the need for real-time data, so that they can then go back to productivity.
Yes.
And say, but how do we reschedule tomorrow to catch up our lost productivity?
Yes.
Or can we save on costs tomorrow?
Yes.
Because we've overproduced today.
Have you guys touched on the planning side in your software as well, whereby that budgeting and all of that is already built into your software?
Yes, so we've got the ability to schedule. I mentioned that we've got the automated scheduling tool.
Yes.
That we're currently in a project where we say tie a cost to this, so we can budget on cost in advance, and then do a plan versus actual on that. And typically, you'll feed that data into a business intelligence tool for the client to have on a high level in strategic meetings, immediate access to that data.
Because it also obviously touches on the skill level of the employee that you need in the specific position as well.
Correct, and there's a lot that can be done there. That's a very interesting subject, Hendrik. You can plan an employee and say that you're going to be a reach truck driver. That's what we're going to remunerate you, so that's your cost. But what if we could multi-skill you, where there's a productivity gap, into a different role? And if we can multi-skill you into that role, we can still utilize you for your maximum number of hours. You get remunerated. And we don't have the productivity loss. And usually that's an operational decision on the day. A supervisor will say, no, you've got to go work there, you've got to go work there.
Yes.
Without knowing if the person is properly qualified for that role. Now you can plan based on that. And on actual allocation, with a tablet on the floor, you can say, Leon, you're going to do this, Hendrik, you're going to do this.
Yes.
Because Hendrik is skilled for this, and Leon, you're skilled for this.
Yeah.
So you've got that real-time information on digital devices.
And I think that obviously plays a role if there is also different sites that needs to be serviced, because sometimes the teams are over different sites and you have got skill level in the one that you maybe need in the other one, and that also comes into the planning of that.
Absolutely, and usually that drives the accountants crazy, because now their plan cost is no longer tied to the actual, because somebody moved from one cost center to another. So the digital solutions allows you to solve that problem.
Yes.
Because you can trace who was sent where and why.
Of course, yeah. Can you give us some examples of innovation that you guys had to come up with for some of the solutions that you guys are driving at your clients at the moment?
So innovation is usually a combination with biometrics and software. So coming back to your earlier question around events in the history of the business that was significant, we had a client within the retail space that just couldn't get information through their existing systems out quick enough. So the STM system was positioned at the end of that data flow, and the data from the biometrics took 4 hours to get there. By that time, it's halfway through the shift. They can't make any decisions. And we innovated by installing ZK Biometrics, because that could give us direct communication
immediately.
And we had immediate data. And then we could innovate with how we move that data through so that it becomes available immediately. And what we did was, we would, knowing who is planned to punch at a specific work area, somebody would then stand there with a tablet as the guys come in and punch in and allocate them to new work areas, saying you're in excess, so we're going to allocate you to this productivity, and we have a shortage here, you go here. And that innovation gave the client the ability to have a real-time accounting functionality in terms of where's the cost, where did my cost move from which cost center or which role. Also, because there's multiple service providers, now it becomes a nightmare to...
The one needs to invoice the other one, and so on and so on.
Correct, and payroll. So now the system does that. So we find significant opportunities to innovate in terms of data availability and where to get data from and who it has to go to in terms of data movement within time and attendance.
We were also talking, I mean, this goes on to like advanced workforce management. And I think a lot of the companies in the market is moving from just a normal time attendance type of scenario where they need to do a full workforce management at the end of the day. What would you say will be, I know it's client driven, but what would you say it will be the next big thing for the workforce management market?
So I think AI is going to upset the market a bit, but I also think that the hype about AI is a bit excessive. I think AI is going to have a couple of cycles of sounding great and delivering underperforming, and then as people catch up, my position on that is that we need to use AI like we use phones to understand it before we can understand how to use the digital technology.
What would you say is a very good use case of AI in this workforce management?
I think there's a significant opportunity on the biometric side to throw away the biometric and use a camera. You've already got that technology. I think that's going to currently the problem in time and attendance is I've got a biometric on a turnstile, but I still have to walk 10 minutes to mine. And I make that 10 minutes because I'm going to talk to somebody, I'm going to phone home and see that everybody's okay.
My work only starts at 8. I'm here, but
exactly. So and you can't measure that. So you measure that through portability. Have a device there, have a mobile phone, etc. But with the camera technology that ZK is producing, we can say that who is in the specific area. And I think that's going to take the focus off of biometrics. You still have access control.
Because you still need safety on the site.
People want to protect their, and they want to have a search point.
Exactly,
But your time attendance is going to move to where on the site am I for what time. And that can be achieved through the AI technology. The other aspect from AI, I don't think there will be anything with in-time and attendance up until the point where people want to mine data. The current headache a client has is if they want a specific report and they want to look at it, there's a cost to develop that and get that data.
Of course.
And everybody has a different view. So one financial manager will look at it, well, I want a different view to the second financial manager, and that doubles the cost. So what like you have a English language support that you can type a question on an online website and say, help me with the following issue. You're going to have a reporting tool that's AI driven that I can say, I want to see this and this data. I want to have it grouped in this format. I want it for this date to this date and exclude the following departments and produce that for me without having to sit a developer down, design it, spec it, build it, and then somebody says, oh, I forgot something. Back to the drawing board. With AI, and that's going to take the data to the end user without the complex middleware systems.
Do you think a lot of people are talking about integrating AI into their softwares, and everybody's looking at it. If you're not, then you're not going to make it in the future. But from your point of view, the connection to an outside AI, or do you think like an on-prem AI or just for your software? Which one do you think?
It's got to be on-premises.
On-prem.
For the simple reason that two reasons. We have protection of personal information, and you don't want to send your data to a AI engine based in the US. People don't trust that.
Of course.
An overseas product. And secondly, your protection of personal information says you must keep data local. So, and don't feed data into something you don't have control over. It would be irresponsible to use third-party AIs. Depending on what you want to do. If it's a simple support desk where you want,
then it's different.
How do I add a new employee sort of question, that you can use existing products. Managing your email, there's existing products that can pop up a message in the morning saying, remember, you've got this schedule. That exists. But working with sensitive employee data within South Africa, you have to have something on-prem. You're just not going to take the risk of
course, Yeah, I think also with the development of AI and these small models or tiny models that they call them, it's going to be much easier these days to actually start putting it on or build into your own software that does not connect to the rest of the world. Because the sensitive data that we sometimes keep, you're working with people's salaries, you're working with people's hours. And that obviously brings on another question is, what about cybersecurity? Is there any... I've heard the other day on a podcast that these guys' opinion is that the new cyber attacks will come from AI that is integrated in the AI without you knowing. That type of thing. So I think the systems need to be, the guardrails need to be put in place when you do AI integration of your own software.
The problem is it's reactive. Security is always reactive. So somebody comes up with a smarter plan and you only find out about it when it's too late. So it's going to be interesting and challenging. In terms of data security and protection, you have to use the experts out
Yes.
there. That's not even in my business. That's not.
Of
We
course.
understand it, but we're not going to try and do it by
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
ourselves. We bring in experts to do that. It's just too big a risk to get that wrong. So we want to be at the leading edge of where that
Exactly,
technology goes now to protect it. And AI does throw a spanner in the works because it speeds up the process of breaching your security.
Yeah.
So and you'll need a defensive AI.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's where we're heading. I think it's interesting times.
I think the whole thing where people moving into AI, you even hear these days that the virus protection guys is also now using AI. So now you use AI to protect you against AI or attacking through AI.
Yeah.
So I think that obviously there's going to be a bit of work that needs to be done within the next 2 years. Up until today, yes, there is some use cases obviously for AI, depending on what you do with it. Like I use it daily just to get some ideas. What do we do next? That type of thing. But to take the humanity out of your daily operations and that type of thing, I don't think AI can do that for us right now.
No, it's too early.
Yeah. So the big thing that I've also realized about AI is previously everybody was going on about big data and all of that. Yes, that big data that you guys generate every day, that we generate every day, can now be fed to AI to give you all of that information that you were talking about.
Yeah, correct.
So faster, smarter, that type of thing will come into it, but I think we still have got a few years, at least about 5 years before we get to a use case, probably that will run into our market at the end of the day.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think we've got some time still.
Yes. Then the last two questions that I have for you is a bit more life-orientated, that type of thing. If you can talk to the young people that's out there, I mentioned it and I mentioned it in the previous podcast as well, is we don't have new people coming into our market. It's as if, I call it, our market is not sexy enough for the new generation. What will your message be for guys that is looking for jobs, that wants to take opportunities? What would you say? Is this a sexy industry to be in?
If you want to make a change in people's lives, it is. I think if you look at time and attendance and access control from the outside, it looks like something that's mechanical.
Yeah.
It's a routine, but it's not the case. The example I want to use is we did an exercise recently where we looked at, and within the STM system, some of my clients will carry rates on the system, or others will carry it in their payroll. So in some of the clients, I have a view of what the payroll value is that they use the system to pay. We did an exercise, how much is that? And of those we could measure, we're close to 500 million rand payroll value.
Goodness.
In 6 months, right? Now, if it matters to you that children eat, that people are paid in time, that's something to be proud of. So we made that possible.
Yeah.
And my software developers and my engineers doing biometric installations, etc., they live that because they know that if payroll phones on Friday morning and says, we can't get this payroll out, we have to get it out. If it doesn't go out, somebody's going hungry for a weekend. And
exactly,
that's where the passion.
That makes a very big difference.
Yeah. So if you want to make a difference, it's not just the mechanics.
Yes.
There's people behind all of it.
And then if you have any message to any 20-year-old, well, if you can give a message to any 20-year-old from when you were 20 years old, what would that message be?
So if you walk into my office and you ask my team, how often does Leon give life advice? They'll go, oh, not again. Because that's how I start my day, with the life lessons. So I hate that people have to learn their own lesson, but sometimes it's necessary. But my advice to young people would be, so my mother had on her mirror many years ago a saying. It goes something like, if you can dream it, if you can imagine it, you can achieve it. If you can dream it, you can become it. And that stuck with me. So that's my motto. I live with that. So you can imagine things and you can achieve that. So never put a ceiling on yourself. society puts constraints on us, and it's legal constraints, and it's
Yes,
what's
of
right
course.
and wrong in society, and that's right. It's there
Yeah.
for a reason. But people usually put constraints in their own mind, especially when you're young and unsure and you're not sure what you want to do.
Definitely, yeah.
I remember being 18 years old and wondering what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And looking back 25 years later, the thing that got me where I wanted to be was saying, I want to get to this, I'm going to take this decision and get
Yes.
it. So I want to say to the youth of South Africa, you can do this. It's going to work out okay.
Do you think, in conjunction with that, would you say book smart is always better than street smart, or do you think there's a combination that you can work on there?
Definitely a combination.
Okay.
Definitely. I studied at UNISA part-time. That's book smart that
Yes.
I got. But by the time I got it, I didn't need it anymore because I used street smarts to get somewhere.
Yes.
So I'm not saying don't get a degree.
No,
Definitely
of course.
go
Yes,
for
yes.
it. That would be...
But you don't need a degree to get into the market.
No.
Even our market, I mean, there's people that does installations, there's people that does telephone support, there's people. So there's a lot of layers towards this market where people think it's intimidating because it's a technology heavy market.
Yeah.
But there is still steps that you can take.
Yeah, no, definitely. As an organization, you need the combination. You need a bit of both. Both has value. As an individual, I would say don't risk not getting the book smarts, but street smarts is also valuable and can get you there.
Yeah, and I think on that note, I would like to thank Leon for his time and for his insight. I think it was very interesting to hear it from a very intensive workforce management side. But thank you very much for your time, and hope to see you soon again.
Thank you very much, Hendrik.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.